Hi, I'm Cameron, and I don't just read comics, I love them. Welcome back to another episode of Cameron Reads Comics. Today, we are going to be going over The Vision by Tom King and Gabriel Walta. So stay tuned and stick around. We got something cool for you today. First and foremost, when it comes to The Vision, I just need to let you guys know that I think this is essential Marvel reading. This was actually one of my first Marvel titles that I ever picked up, and I knew after I read it that it was something special. When it comes to really famous writers, I think that Tom King is one of the best working writers right now, and so to see what he was doing in that series and see it conveyed, I knew I needed to pick it up. And so, actually, before we even go into any of the spoiler-free review for the series, I want to show you how much I love it. I have a Vision number 1, 9.8, signed by Tom King. It's a silver signature. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but it is signed by Tom King. So for you, if you're wondering how I feel about it, this is how I feel about it. I actually spent a long time looking for this issue, and I was really excited to find it in the wild, just at my local comic stores. Paid a couple bucks for it. And after that, I sent it into CGC when he was doing a signing there, and I was very fortunate to have it come back at 9.8. So this was actually my first 9.8 ever, and it's a signature series. This is going to be in my collection for a long time. So that's how much I love it, and that's a little collectible spotlight for you guys. When it comes to accessibility, I think this is one of the most accessible stories in the Marvel canon. I know this from my first experience because it was one of my first Marvel stories I ever read. I went, probably off Civil War and then to this book, and pretty much I was able to understand all the core concepts. So if you are a fan who casually watches the movies and kind of has a brief understanding of who Vision is, and potentially his relationship with Scarlet Witch, then you can understand a lot of what's going down in this story. For some context, I'd highly recommend reading Avengers Disassembled and House of M. Those are two stories that kind of feed into a lot of this narrative and set up kind of him and Wanda's relationship, because Vision is obviously a very important character, but a lot of his comic book arcs are grounded in his relationship with Wanda. So, like I said, if you are an MCU fan and you kind of understand that relationship, this story should not be too hard for you. And especially if you understand some of the Ultron stuff that was going on. You should totally be able to hop right into this story. Now, when it comes to the writing in this book, I think that you are kind of given a masterclass on the capability of Tom King. This was, in my opinion, the book that really put him on the map. And it really emphasizes what he does best. He takes a B-list character and he digs deeply into them to see what makes them interesting. And then he weaves this beautiful narrative tapestry into what this character wants, what they provided the universe, and the rest. So I think this story was a masterclass on what Tom King is able to do. And so you're able to see this perfectly displayed. For the writing itself, though, I compare this story to one of my favorite directors when I pitch it to people. I consider it like a Sam Mendes film, more along the lines of American Beauty or Revolutionary Road, where he kind of takes the white picket fence lifestyle, and what he does is, show the broken pieces within that. This whole story is about the Vision wanting to live the perfect American dream, trying to, a synthezoid trying to become human, and then not understanding that he was pursuing normalcy, and he didn't understand that really no one's normal. And so he's an outsider looking in and trying to participate in the real world experience, and he doesn't understand that it's a fractured experience. And so he builds a family for himself, and we get to know those characters and those interpersonal dynamics, and think about, your next door neighbor being a bunch of robots that have fought alongside the Avengers. It's not going to be normal. Normal was never going to be part of his plan, but that doesn't stop him from pursuing that. Also, I think that this story kind of nails, if you're trying to understand WandaVision, the television show, you can see a lot of the influence from there into from this book into the show. You can, especially if you just look at the front cover of issue number 1, it's them on their doorstep waving kindly. But if you go inside the house and if you look kind of behind the scenes in this story, you're going to see a lot of stuff that maybe you don't like, or maybe what they're portraying on the outside is not what's happening inside. When it comes to the art in this book, I think that Gabriel Walta is the best choice. And if you had really chosen any other artist, I don't know if they could have been able to make this story as impactful or as compelling as it was, because he's that good. The interesting part about his art is that it's very minimal in its line work. It's kind of different than the standard DC or Marvel like house styles. You know, those other stories I mentioned, that's Oliver Copio, and it's David Finch, whose art is quite gritty, and this one isn't that. You know, his lines are very minimal, and Jordi Belair, who is his colorist, uses very soft colors that almost make the book look watercolor-ish, and it's very beautiful, very striking, and the balance that they strike in the art being something that could be kind of quaint and then incredibly gruesome and terrifying is like a catwalk, but they master every step. It is beautiful. It's a beautiful book, and the way he's able to nail tone through the panels and the pictures, it is amazing. And I think that Gabriel Walta and Jordi Belair together, the way that they show this art is unparalleled and just like beautiful. So this book's art is amazing, and Walta has like made a place for himself at Marvel through something like this. If you want to see another book that I think he does amazing on, that really kind of made him one of my favorites, go check out the Donny Cates Doctor Strange run, because he was on the art for that, and everything he does is just so beautiful. And so for the art in this book, I'm obviously a huge fan, and I just think that the ability that he's able to do these soft, beautiful splash pages of just quaint family lifestyle, but then do really crazy, terrifying action scenes, and the way that they use the colors to separate both of those is actually just amazing. And I haven't seen it in other comic book posters. So this is definitely one of those books where I'm really impressed with the art style, and I don't know, it's a lightning in a bottle kind of situation where I don't know if anyone could have done it as well as he did. Now, when it comes to the characters in this book, the characters they have going on is a lot of the Vision family, and that's really where a lot of your focus is going to be. They interact somewhat with the Marvel Universe, but for the most part, it's pretty minimal. And so to see them walk through their lifestyle, there's Vision, who's really a liaison to the White House on behalf of the Avengers, and then there's his wife, who's kind of just a stay-at-home wife trying to figure out what to do with herself and how to be a human. And then you have the pictures of the kids who are just, teenagers going into high school. And imagine, I'm sure we all remember, or you're going through your high school years, and that insecurity and self-doubt. Now imagine being a robot going through that, trying to understand a foreign concept that is humanity. And so it's very striking, very beautiful, and each character arc is very specific to the character in a very meaningful way that Tom King does. So I think that this story nails it in a way that not a lot of other stories could. The cool part about the characters, too, is that you have some of the Avengers that you'll know and love, and you'll see in Gabriel Walta's colors and designs for their costumes are amazing. But Tom King really leans into the Vision's history. And I know to expect that because it's a Vision book, but really he leans into some of the Ultron stuff and the ramifications of being created by that. But then I'm meeting characters for the first time like the Grim Reaper or Wonder Man or Victor Mancha, who are characters, because I'm not so familiar with the Marvel Universe, I was meeting for the first time, but I was never set back by the characters. This is an incredibly approachable book for a brand new comic fan. And so while there are some B-list, C-list characters in the book, I was never taken aback by their presence, and it never took away from the story. In fact, it enhanced it. So that was really well done, and I think that the characters in the book and their interactions with their setting is amazing, and it's woven together like a beautiful tapestry. For the rating of this book, I am going to give it an absolute 10 out of 10. I think this story is just a masterclass of storytelling. I think that Sam Mendes is actually my favorite director, and so to see those tones within this story and just kind of taking the classic narrative of the white picket fence, wholesome American lifestyle and flipping that on its head. It's a story that I've seen told before, and I love that, and to see it told from this perspective was incredibly amazing. And so to experience that with these characters was awesome. All of the character dynamics and the empathy that you have towards every single character in this story. I don't know if I can honestly tell you that there is a villain in this story. I'm like, people may disagree with me online. Leave a comment below if you feel that way. I don't know if there's quite a villain in the story because I find every character and their motivations so empathetic. So I want to, you sympathize with these characters and what they're going through. I can understand why the humans don't understand the robots. I can understand why the robots are reacting the way they are to the humans. It is very, very, very well done. And on top of that, the art is beautiful. So everything that I want in a comic like this, it succeeded. And the kind of 10s that I give out are in the framework of they set off to tell a particular story, and they told that story exceptionally. And I think this is one of those moments. So don't hesitate, don't stop. Go pick up The Vision by Tom King and Gabriel Walta and Jordi Belair. I promise you will not dislike it. I promise if anything, you will be significantly entertained and maybe think of robot-human relations differently. So remember, my name's Cameron. I don't just read comics, I love them. Go pick up some comics and maybe hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you. See you later.